Let me do a 30-second overview of myself. Um, I'm the Director of Staffing and Recruiting here at Career Innovations. I truly see ourselves as innovators. We use an innovative approach to look at a lot of the things that are going on out there in the marketplace. I definitely think that staffing and recruiting and being able to implement some of the things that are going on out there definitely can help job seekers as well as employers. One of my true passions is organizational development. I truly believe that an organizational culture is what attracts and retains their not only their current talent but potential hires that may want to work for their organization. We use unconventional and untraditional methods to locate top talent. A lot of us label ourselves as headhunters because we go out there and actually find the top talent instead of waiting for them to come to us. One of my favorite quotes is, "Good is the enemy of great. Few people attain great lives, partly because it's so easy to settle for a good one." This is actually by Jim Collins in the book of Good to Great. It's a great read if you ever have a chance to read that. So let's go ahead and dive right into the session today. First thing that was asked of that was, how do I market myself? And that was one of the questions that was asked. But before you can market yourself, I really truly believe you need to know your audience. That's one thing that you need to be aware of. Who are you marketing to? What companies are you reaching out to? When you're looking for a job, I think it's sometimes you have to stop and take a look at, what do you want out of this? This actually goes back to my first point. What I'm going to talk about is back to the basics, the 5 P's of marketing. If anyone doesn't familiar with the 5 P's of marketing, or I know back in the day they used to call them the 4 P's. The 5 P's is product, promotion, price, place, and positioning. So you want to know your audience and you want to know where you fit in the 5 P's. In order to know your audience, you want to be able to at least do some type of research on looking at your career goals and looking at some type of marketing plan that you have in place. I know a lot of people that are applying to jobs nowadays do not have a plan in place. It's kind of like, I'm just winging it. I'm going to apply to everything possible with the keywords that I'm looking for and just hope and pray someone calls me back. May not be a company I want to work for, but it's a job. And I'm getting a lot of that from the workforce and a lot of people that are out there looking, because a lot of people are in survival mode. They're desperate, so they're applying to anything. And to make this effective, you really want to be able to narrow down your search, and that starts with researching your career goals. What do you want out of your next career? Even if you left your job voluntarily or involuntarily, this is your chance to either create a new path or make a lateral move. And these are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself. You need to know, okay, do I want to lead teams in my next role? The last role I had, I did this. Was I happy doing this particular job? What are some things I liked about my last position that I would love to do more of? So these are the questions that you need to ask yourself, and this is when you need to zoom in on the companies or the positions that can offer you that. So researching your career goals can also break down to researching the product or service that the company may offer. I know a lot of people that, may be in sales and marketing, but they don't just sell anything. It's some people that have a niche of what they sell, or they're only happy selling a particular product and service. I know a lot of people say, I can't sell something if I don't believe in it. So they have to have faith in the product, and they have to have faith in the company they're working for in order for them to be successful in that role. So these are some things that you have to take a look at. You also want to look at the major players that are in that particular industry. Goes back to the basics. Who are the decision makers that you're going to need to reach out to? Who are some of the key people that you're going to need to know? So when you look at a particular posting and you see a company that posted, it's so much technology out here that you can actually narrow down. May not be down to the exact person, but you can narrow down to the demographic and the department of who you need to be zooming in on and who you need to be marketing to. So these are some of the things that you need to look at. You also want to look at the potential outlook of the company as well as the potential hiring of the company. A lot of people are pursuing dead-end roles or dead-end industries, I should say. One industry I can think that's going out the window, it's the print industry, journalism. I think journalism has turned more into blogging. Everything's online now. Even print magazines are now online now. So this is a dying industry. A lot of newspapers are out of business. A lot of magazines are out of business, or they decided to recreate themselves and made an online issues or make an online publication. So you want to make sure that you're not pursuing a dying industry. That's one way that can hold you back from finding a career, not because you're not experienced enough. It's just no jobs out there in that industry, because that industry is, starting to fade away. You also want to look at the talents that they attract or hire in that particular industry. And what I mean by that, sometimes you can look at the trends that a company hires in. Where do they find most of their people? You can find this information on LinkedIn. A lot of resources will show you, how many the people that are in their company. If you go to LinkedIn and you click on a company, you can actually click on the link and look at the employees at their company. You can break those employees down to demographics. You can break it down to the job title. So you want to look at where are they hiring these particular applicants at. I've seen some organizations that hire strictly from a particular school. Hey, I'm not saying nothing's wrong with it, but you start to see trends. You start to see, most of their employees graduated from this particular school. Most of their employees live or around this particular demographic. So you want to take a look at where are they finding their employees, what's the trend that they have, and that also lets you know a little bit about their organizational culture as well. One thing you also want to look at in your research is what differentiates you from everyone else. That's something that's very key when you're doing your research, is finding out, okay, what makes me different and how am I going to actually be able to compete against my competition. And right there, that's when you're going to have an effective marketing plan come into place. This is where you're going to be able to find out, how do I market myself in a market that's so saturated, where I have so many people applying to this particular position. And when you look at positions online, I know in some cases they'll let you know how many applicants have already applied, which in the bigger picture can be discouraging. When you get to a job opening and you've already seen 140 people apply, some people feel that, is it worth me even applying to the job? How will I measure up to the people that have already applied? So that's when it goes down to effective marketing. You want to be able to use some of the research tools that are out there. That is your social media, that's doing your research on the company, and figure out, how do I differentiate myself from everyone else? What can I bring to the table that no one else can bring to the table? What experience or what solutions have I implemented in my past organizations or companies I work for that I can be able to bring or onboard with this new company? So this is something you definitely want to look at when you're putting together your marketing plan. Your next one is, again, I talked about leveraging your resources. And resources doesn't have to always be a tangible item like your technology or, a particular lead. It can be your network. A lot of people are not leveraging their network. And believe it or not, a lot of people are looking for work that no one else knows that they're even looking for work. I was working with a candidate that, she was looking for a job, and I wouldn't have known that unless she told me. Her LinkedIn profile didn't say she was looking for any new opportunities. She never disclosed it to anyone. So if you're not leveraging your network, and you never know who's in your network that can say, hey, you'll be perfect for this position, let me forward this along. But if they don't know that you're looking, you're never going to be able to pick their brain and find out if they can actually give you leads that can lead to some type of full-time employment. So you definitely want to be able to leverage your resources in doing this. And the next thing, you want to know your competitors. Not only with the company's competitors, this is also a great conversation and interview piece when you do actually do have a face-to-face interview with the employers, you can talk about some of the competitors, what their competitors are doing. That shows that you've not only researched the company, you have a little bit knowledge of the industry that you're actually applying for. But also knowing your competitors is also knowing the people that you potentially could be running against for this particular job. You need to ask yourself, how do you measure up? Does your skills and experience align with your competition? And you can easily do this by looking at people in the similar roles that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a particular position at a company, I would go to that company and look at individuals that are already doing that role. That way you can tell, you know, again, it's not 100% foolproof, but you can get an idea of the type of experience that they're looking for. You can get an idea of what credentials they're bringing to the table. Not only education, but experience. You can also look at the type of companies they worked for in the past. So you want to be able to know, how do you measure up in the bigger picture? And a lot of people don't know when they're applying. This company, you may have the skill set, but this company may not be looking for this particular type of experience, and you wouldn't know that because you haven't done your research. Are you marketable? And that goes back to the previous questions of how I market. You want to ask yourself, well, are you marketable to begin with? And this goes back to the basic 3 elements that you use to market yourself. The next slide, we're going to actually review some great creative ways to market yourself outside the normal resume, cover letter, and portfolio. But I want to touch on the resume, cover, and portfolio because these are very, very crucial. And the reason why I say these are crucial, because this is your first line of defense. Before you can start to showcase your solutions and what you implemented and, you know, how much growth you made over the first quarter, you at least have to have a resume that's going to catch my eye. Or you're going to have something in your portfolio that's going to cause me to pick up the phone and call you and put you in, you know, and book you in for an interview. A lot of people aren't taking the resume very seriously as their first line of defense. This is the first marketing piece that an employer sees. Before they see your LinkedIn profile, before they see anything else, they see your resume, because that's the first thing I look at. When I have someone's resume and it catches my eye, then I start to use other resources to research that individual, like LinkedIn or different forms of social media. But first, I have to, you know, first my attention has to be caught with the resume. That's the first line of defense. And a lot of people cannot articulate effectively what they've done for a company. And what I mean by what they've done, we're not talking about the task that you were hired to do. And I've seen a lot of resumes that look purely like a job description. Did this, managed this, wrote this, submitted this. It looks exactly like, if I didn't put the past tense on some of the descriptions that people put in their resume, I could literally cut and paste it and use it as a job description to hire someone. That's how verbatim a lot of people's resumes are. So you want to look at, what does your resume say? Are you just rattling off a task that you're supposed to be hired to do? We're in 2014. 2014, we are in a decade of innovators. People are looking for fresh, new people that can bring ideas to the table, that can leverage their resources, that can maximize their processes. They're not just looking for a warm body anymore. Those days are long gone. They're looking for someone that can bring value to their organization. So your resume has to speak value. What value can you market? Those are the things that you have to ask. I am going to be doing a workshop on resume writing later on in April, and we're going to go over some of the things that a resume should have. And again, resume writing is so subjective. You can have 10 people tell you how to write a resume, and guess what? They all are going to be right. Every single one of them are going to be right. But you want to be able to look and see, how can I market myself in a way that this does not sound like I just cut and paste off a job description. The questions that you should be answering is, what improvements were made? And the fact that if you're not in a role that has quantitative data, because I have a lot of people that say, I'm not in a sales role, I'm not in a marketing role, I don't have numbers, but you improved something while you were there. Even if you were an administrative assistant, you found an effective way to improve a process, whether it's the way you filed something or the way you took phone calls or the way that you scheduled traveling arrangements. It was something that you done that streamlined a process. It doesn't have to be quantitative data. It can be saving time. Because for organizations, saving time is money. It translates to dollars and cents. So it doesn't have to be always improve something X percentage. You can actually improve a process and at the same time save company money. You also want to know, what did you do that you weren't hired to do? I'm going to read that again. What did you do that you weren't hired to do? Again, this is something we didn't hire you to do. If you can tell me something that you did at your past organization that you did, that you took by the bull by the horns and stepped outside of the box and brought something of value to the organization that wasn't in the job description, that means you're going to bring me value. What is your solution? Again, companies don't want to talk about all the accolades and the experience that you accumulated. They want to know that you can fix a problem. That's why they're hiring you. Because if they didn't have a problem that needed to be fixed, they would not have an opening. In fact, they do it themselves. And a lot of companies are starting to either outsource it or finding the technology to eliminate the positions in which a lot of these positions are getting filled. And I don't know if you're seeing this. We're at the times where technology are starting to take over a lot of positions. So you have to think, what was the solution? What did you implement for your past organizations, or what can you implement now that can save the company money? So again, you want to be a solution solver. It's not about, what I'm hiring you to do. How can you fix the problem that we currently have? Again, in your resume, it should be able to answer the question, what makes you different from your competition? Now, I'm looking at hundreds of resumes a day. I'm looking, in some cases, these huge Fortune 500 companies are getting thousands of resumes. What makes you different from everybody else that's applying to this job? You have a degree, so does everybody else that applies has a degree. You have this certification, okay, this was a requirement to even apply for the job. So, that's not a kudos. So you have to be able to think of what makes you different from everybody else that's applying for that job. And overall, your resume should answer the big question, why should I hire you? Why should that company hire you as that employee? Not only should your resume speak volumes to this, your cover letter should speak volumes to this, and your portfolio should have a combination of your entire work history in one great package. That's what a portfolio is. So you can actually look through someone's portfolio and they will have not only their resume, recommendations, they will have different projects they worked on depending on the industry they're in. So it gives them a great picture of their entire work history in one particular portfolio. So that's what a portfolio is. But your resume and cover letter definitely should be able to answer these questions right here. So when you ask, how can you market yourself? Answering these questions first is your first step on getting that out. Once you're able to answer these questions, now you can work on the 4 P's, which is positioning yourself to be able to get this information in front of decision makers. But I see a lot of people are working backwards, and they're trying to get themselves in front of decision makers without answering these questions. And what happens? What happens is that a decision maker, one of them out the blue, will reach out to you, and you're not able to effectively market yourself because you can't tell that employer what makes you different. You're just happy you got a call back. So we need to really focus on these elements that make you marketable before you go out and try to market yourself. The next slide we're going to be looking at are other creative ways you can market yourself. Creative ways to market yourself. This is some things I put together. Again, they're many other ways that you can do this. Again, I wanted to cover the first line of defense first, which is the resume and cover letter, because that's where a lot of people get caught up on. But the creative ways to market yourself, if you're going to go, you're going to raise the bar for yourself. And I've seen a lot of people that stood out. And this is what's really catching employers' eye when they think outside the box just to catch their attention. And it's the creative ways they do it. A lot of people have personal websites. You know, URL for GoDaddy is anywhere from three or $4 to $10. You know, and they're able to, you know, it's so much free open source technology out there where you can build a resume for free now and just pay for the hosting, which is anywhere from $5 to $10 a month. And again, we're not talking about anything fancy. We're not talking about hiring a webmaster. We're talking about something that you can do that's going to be outside the box as far as just having a resume. And I've seen a lot of people are having online profiles. One I can think of off the hand is About.me. If you don't want to go through the effort of building a resume, some of these platforms now walk you through on how to even, you know, put together one. But they also have one called About.me that I'm seeing a lot of job seekers use. Just check them out. Again, that's 100% free. You don't have to pay for that. And it gives you your own personal URL. So when people click on that, they're not only able to see some of a snapshot of your accomplishments, they also have all your social media and contact information where they can get in touch with you immediately. Networking cards, you know, business cards, networking cards, they're not just for companies, you know, especially when you start going to these networking events. No one's not going to carry no one's going to carry around an 8x10 resume in their back pocket. The best thing you can do is have a networking card. You know, especially if you're unemployed and you don't want to pass that. In your previous position, you have business cards and you don't want to pass those out because you're no longer with that company. You can go to Vistaprint or any other company for that matter. I'm just throwing that out there because it's very cost effective to do that. You know, and they give you 250 cards for free. All you're paying for the shipping. And the shipping, I think, is only $5. And you can design it, put whatever you want on there. You know, they even walk you through how to design the cards. Networking cards is a great way to pass out and keep in touch with people. This really goes back to leveraging your network. And a lot of people aren't leveraging their existing network, let alone reaching out and trying to build it. Events. Now, for everyone that's on the line with me today, what was the last event that you attended that pushed you closer to your goal? The key is closer to your goal. There's a lot of people attending events out there that have nothing to do with what they're ultimately trying to do. And you're wasting your time. You should be attending not only just job fairs, you should be attending, again, association or industry-related meetings. You know, a lot of times these meetings, you know, regardless if you're a member or not, you can attend some of the meetings that are open to the public. You know, so you should be creating events, just like a lot of people found this event on Eventbrite. You should be looking for events in your area that tailor around the job or the industry that you're trying to get into. And start attending them. And again, when you attend those events, start taking your networking cards. Get yourself out there. One I don't see on here is volunteering. I think that volunteering is key. If you're not currently working now, you should definitely be at least trying to get yourself back into the workforce. You can volunteer through different companies. I had one person that was in consulting. They took up a volunteer, or I don't want to call it an intern position, but was pretty much they helped out with some of the work or the caseloads with a consulting firm. And they did that, I think, only for about 3 months. And the company knew that they were currently looking within the next quarter. Within the next quarter, that consulting company ended up hiring that person just off of volunteering. So you definitely want to look into that as well. Social media is also big. I'm seeing people that are putting together different videos, portfolios, blogging. When you do things like this, you're actually building yourself up to be an expert in the industry, and that's what employers are looking for. They're looking for someone that can bring some type of consultatory experience to the table. So they're looking for the experts. They're looking for someone that can have a consultant approach to things. So when you have these big bloggers, these people that are online, these people are looked at as experts in the industry. So creating a blog talking about some of the trends in the industry wouldn't hurt your career. In fact, it would help your career. It's going to be a lot of people that are going to come and read your blog that may not know that you exist. A lot of people started to blog as well, and blogging is pretty big now. A lot of people, you never heard of blogging, and now in 2014, I can't think of a company or a person that doesn't have some way, shape, or form, some type of blog going on. Another one that's not on here, or I do see it on here, like I said, some people are making personal videos. If you're not familiar with Prezi, I use Prezi all the time. I didn't use it for this presentation, but if you go to my LinkedIn, I think I have about 5 or 6 Prezi presentations that I put together. And I know some people that attend my workshop just because of the Prezi presentations. They're very, very colorful. I put a lot of animation in there, and it keeps people's attention. But it also gets the point across that I'm trying to make at that particular time. So you want to also look at being able to put together presentations as well. And some of this stuff, like I said, can be linked directly to your LinkedIn profile, just like mine is linked to my profile. And I've caught many employers as well as candidates' attention just by some of the presentations I just have attached to my profile. So definitely look at some other creative ways that you can market yourself. These are some that are off the cuff that I think that are very beyond the resume, beyond the cover letter. I think also just reaching out to decision makers is not so much creative, but it's direct. And a lot of people aren't doing this as well. I tell people the worst the person can say is no, and what have you lost? So I think that picking up the phone is a great way to make a connection. Even if you may not be able to push forward with your ultimate goal, you've at least built someone in your network that can potentially lead you to other leads. So it's not on here, and it's not, I wouldn't call it a creative way, but I think it's more of a direct way. Is if you find a position, you know the person that posted, or you know the people at the company that can at least point you in the right direction, don't hesitate to pick up that phone. But again, have your ducks in a row. Those questions on the previous slide should be answered. Because if you do get a chance to talk to that person that makes that decision, what are you going to say? How are you going to sell yourself? How are you going to sell a solution? So you definitely want to make sure your ducks in a row before you start to reach out to people, especially if you start to cold call. But I think that cold calling is an effective way. Some people say it's dead. I think there's no better way than to directly reach out to the person that you want to engage in. And a lot of people now, especially in this technology, they shy away from that. Either everything's done in the form of an email or a text. Believe it or not, some people are actually caught off guard and even welcome a phone call nowadays. So you definitely want to look into that as well. We're half over. I usually give an overview and answer some of the questions the first 30 minutes. I open up the line the remaining 30 minutes, and these are for individuals that may have not sent their question before the workshop, or didn't have a question beforehand, so they didn't send it to me. So I open up the line and I leave 30 minutes for any Q&A, and it doesn't have to be on this topic. This was the topic that I received questions for, so it can be on any topic, but I do like to leave it open for individuals that weren't able to answer a question. Okay, I have first question that came up was, as a recruiter, please discuss the phenomenon of agencies recruiting remotely and marketing a candidate's skills without actually creating a contract with the job seeker. Where is the benefit for the seeker? Okay, as a recruiter, if you have someone that, most recruiters, if they don't have a job in place, if they work with someone, sometimes people come across candidates that have very marketable skill sets, So if you're working with a recruiter that may not actually have a physical job in place, they may be working to get a job in place, and they're building relationship with many organizations that may have openings that you potentially could get hired in. That's what they actually do. It's called an MPC, most placeable candidate. That's what I guess the recruiting world would call a candidate that has very attractive skill sets. And what does it benefit for the seeker? Well, if the recruiter is actually marketing this person, the job seeker would benefit that they're getting their credentials in front of companies that they either hadn't applied to yet or have applied to, and their resume is sitting at the bottom of a pile. If the recruiter's doing it right, they should be getting their resume directly to the decision maker or directly to that hiring authority, which may be the HR director or HR manager. So that way you're at least cutting through the middleman of using an ATS system, which is the applicant tracking system, or applying online. In a database just sitting there. Again, it doesn't guarantee you a job, no. But it does increase your chances of at least getting that exposure to companies that you either never heard of or didn't apply to, or companies that you have applied to, but you're 1 in 500 resumes. So more likely they didn't know you applied. So that's where the benefit would come in. And again, if you are working with a recruiter, and I even tell candidates that work with me, I would still be applying and also engaging in different activities on your own. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I tell people, recruiter cannot get you a job. All they can do is present you, and the person that has that authority to hire is the company itself. They have the last say so. So even if they do have a opening that they're presenting you to, doesn't guarantee that you're going to get it. Because most companies are working with multiple recruiters, and the best resume wins. Unfortunately, that's what happens. The best resume, or the best person that presented themselves the best, wins. I don't always say the most experienced, because a lot of people out there are very experienced, but guess what? They're very unemployed as well. So I'm coming across a lot of people with that background as well. I hope that was able to answer your question. But yeah, there are recruiting agencies that do work with do work with candidates, and they either help them out by working together, trying to find positions, and try to at least showcase them to potential companies that may have openings. Doesn't guarantee that they have a contract in place. A lot of recruiters may not have that relationship with the company yet, and that person that they bring in, or the person that they're actually showcasing, may actually bridge that gap. I have another question. What are some of the benefits of calling directly if you do not know the decision maker directly? I guess if you don't know the decision maker directly, I think the benefit is first to at least look the decision maker up on LinkedIn first, to get at least some type of overview of who you're going to call. The benefit of calling them directly is building a relationship. Their first line, their first reaction would be to look you up next. So they'll probably look to see, check you out, and if you also offer to send their resume, they're going to take time to look at it because you at least made an effort to reach out to them. Again, none of this guarantees employment, but it definitely increases your opportunity, increases your likelihood of, if not getting the job, but at least building a relationship. So that's the benefit for at least reaching out to the direct, and this is what recruiters are doing anyway. So I don't see why job seekers can't do it either. And I have a follow-up question. A couple of companies have done this. I find that this had decreased my opportunity to meet the decision maker, and may also make it difficult to okay. I apologize. Yeah, you're right. I had this Q&A set up like this. Um, Let me go back to your follow-up question. It may make it difficult to approach the company directly. Please to discuss your experience on how to handle your clients both in on the hiring end as well on the job seeker end. When you say handle the clients or handle the candidates, or I can give you how I will work with a client or how I will work with a candidate, and give you a, how that actually works, so you can see both sides of the coins, or both sides of the coin, I should say. When I work with a candidate, usually if I'm reaching out to a candidate, I would have a position in place. And this goes for overview for all recruiters or headhunters or staffing agencies. They may have one or two positions in place, but you are, when they reach out to the job seeker, which may be yourself, you're one of many job seekers they're reaching out to. So most of the time they're going to reach out to the job seeker and invite them to interview, or invite them to have a phone screen with the client that they're working with. If that pans out, again, you're going to be against, especially if this is not a particular role that's highly niched or highly competitive. It's just so many technical positions out there that you may only find one or two good people, so your competition is pretty low. But if you have these huge firms that are recruiting for, let's say, administrative roles or customer service roles, you may have anywhere from 10 to 20 people in the process at the time. So it really depends on the industry or the position. So that's what you'll do. You bring the job seeker in or the candidate in. You'll review their information, and all the recruiter is pretty much that buffer between the candidate and the client. That's all that person is there for, and they're hopefully increasing their speed to market, or increasing that candidate speed to market or placement, versus them just going through a stack of resumes. So hopefully what will happen if the client is serious about hiring, that's key. It has to be some sense of urgency, and I'm going to go into that in a second. And then they're ready to move forward. Usually they'll set up a phone screen or phone interview, then they'll set up a face-to-face, and before you know it, the ball is rolling, and the recruiter's out the process. They may be monitoring the process, but they're no longer a vital role, because once they're able to connect the candidate and the employer, more likely, the employer will start communicating directly to the candidate as far as interview, setting up their next interview, the steps in the hiring process, and the recruiter would probably just step in just as a reminder, hey, you have an interview Thursday with blah, 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 blah. So usually the company would take charge once they find a candidate they potentially want to hire. I know there's some companies or agencies that may work with companies or clients that may not have that urgency in place, and that's where it falls short on a job seeker or yourself. That's why we're highly selective on who we work with. We want to make sure that the company that we work with has some type of sense of urgency, because we don't want the job seeker to feel like we're dragging our feet trying to get them to this position. So that's key. You have to make sure the employer is willing to move. You have some employers that, hey, we'll feel it when we feel it type of scenario. And you may be presented to a company that might not make a decision for a couple of weeks, sometimes a month or two. By that time, either you've already found another job or you moved on to something else. So that's where it can be very sticky, and that can come off as if, does this person really have a job that they're marketing to, because I haven't heard from this employer for X amount. And you have to remember, sometimes it's not the recruiter's fault. We can go only as fast as the company. If the company drags their feet, we as a staffing agency or a recruiter, we can't force the hiring manager to set up an interview. And a lot of times you may have someone that just taps out. Hey, we had this open position, but now, we froze it. Or now we put this position on hold. Might not hear from them for a couple of weeks. Might not hear from them until next quarter. And again, that falls short on the job seeker, because now hopefully if a recruiter is doing it right, they're at least communicating to the job seeker saying, hey, this is the deal. I haven't heard from this employer. I submitted you. I think the job's on hold, or hey, the job is on hold. Let's start looking at other opportunities. I don't want you to, hold your breath for this job because I can't get movement with this company. Hopefully that's what the recruiter's telling you. If not, you have some that just disappear. You just never hear from them again. So that's why the recruiter has to do due diligence by picking companies that are ready to move in the process. That has that, like I said, that's key, has that sense of urgency. See if there are any more questions. Hopefully that answered everything. I don't see any more questions in the queue right now. Or I don't see any more questions. I do see a comment. You're absolutely right. We're actually going to be changing from GoToWebinar, I think, next month with like you said, it's going to actually be a feed where you can actually communicate with other people in the session. So you'll be able to see other people in the session, and you can not only ask me questions, you can also ask other people that are in the session questions as well. So we're going to move our platform in April to a different platform. So if you sign up for it, you'll be logging on to something totally different. I think just like this comment, it would be easier and be a little bit more engaging as well. So I hope that answered your question. All recruiters aren't made equally. That's just what it is. You're going to have your good recruiters. You're going to have your mediocre recruiters. That's the same thing with employers and employees. You're going to have your great employers. You're going to have your so-so employers. So don't lose faith. There's some good recruiters out there that definitely can help you out. I've seen it, at least that can open you up to a totally different market. No recruiter can guarantee you a job. They can just only give you an opportunity. And again, the ball is really in the employer's court, whether or not they're going to move on this job, whether or not they're going to tiptoe on it, they're going to drag it out. And, that, again, it makes a reflection look bad on recruiters, but it also, like you asked that question, because it hinders your growth as well. It hinders you to be able to look for jobs effectively if you're still waiting and holding on to hear from a particular position that, hey, I don't know if they're hiring, I don't know if this position is really going to happen this quarter, or, what's going to happen. I haven't heard anything. And that can be very, very discouraging and frustrating. But hopefully if you're partnered up with a recruiter that can at least communicate this to you, I think that's where you're going to find the advantage, because I think recruiters definitely can be the voice of the employer, because they're about as close as you're going to get to the employer directly, unless you start to build a relationship yourself. If that's all, I'm going to have this recorded. If anyone wants to review this will be on YouTube. As you can see, the last slide, my contact information. Okay, yes, my contact information is on the workshop. At the end of this workshop, there is a survey. I really encourage everybody on the line to take it. It's only 10 questions. It asks you some of the same questions. What would you like us to talk about in the future? Take a look at the website. If you have issues with writing a resume, cover letter, we do this. We do resume, cover letter, editing, and writing. Look at some of our upcoming workshops. What we talked about today, we have programs that dig deep. Right now, these Q&A sessions scratch the surface, but we actually do have programs. I know Putting Your Action Into Plan is a great program that we offer, that it digs in deep on how to actually put together an action plan, step by step, even how to reach out to decision makers step by step. So if you really want to get the meat of some of the things that we talked about in the Q&A sessions, I encourage you to sign up for some of the workshops that we have going on. And definitely look at the website. Sign up for another Q&A next week if you have more questions that you'd like to bring to the table. I would love to hear your stories. My email's up here. We're on all the social media: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. Excuse me. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.